my name is Rosa Melvin Carrot from County Cork, Ireland. I am 9 years old. I am a 5-year kidney cancer and transplant survivor. I am proud to be here with you today. I welcome all of you to Dublin and to Ireland and to the first LIVESTRONG Global Cancer Summit. Today we are one world united against cancer, united for life. Thank you for being here. Now I'd like to bring up my friend and fellow survivor, Mr. Armstrong.
She's pretty cute. Well, it's certainly an honor to be here with 500 of our friends from all over the world, 65 countries. I would be remiss and in trouble if I didn't acknowledge my mother, who's here somewhere. So, Mom and Ed. There she is. This journey for me started in a couple of places. I think the journey to come back to racing again and talk about this disease from an international perspective started almost a year ago at the Clinton Global Initiative, where I was lucky enough to share the stage with President Clinton, Mayor Bloomberg of New York City, and talk about our disease from a global perspective, talk about the stigma associated with this disease, talk about healthcare issues, talk about all of the things that we will go over in the next 3 days. At the time, a couple of things. We didn't know how successful this room would be. We didn't know that this room would be as deep as it is today. But also as an athlete, I didn't know how it would go on the bike. And I think a lot of people from the sporting perspective had a lot of questions. While we didn't win the Tour de France, and we wanted to win the Tour. I wanted to try and win the Tour de France. It was still, I guess, okay for a 38-year-old guy. But as I said in the beginning, I think the real measurement here, the real, in cycling we say the general classification, the overall results, which we get every day, and then ultimately you get at the end. The real GC will be determined here. It will be determined in the next 3 days, will be determined at this summit. We, all 500 of us, will determine the results of our team. And nobody's going to walk away from this summit and have cured this disease, per se. But I think that we can walk away with an idea how to affect change in our families, in our communities, in our countries, in our cultures. And I think that's the real point. As I remind people all of the time, we picked a tough fight. This is not something that will be won easily. If we wanted something easy, we could have picked another disease, picked another issue, picked another epidemic. This one's tough. If it's myself, if it's Rosa, if it's Lorena, if it's any of us in this room that have been touched by this disease, we all know that they're all very different. And then it goes deeper than that and broader than that when you consider how the disease resonates in our communities and how it resonates in hospitals and in families and in governments. Very tricky disease, but I, as an optimist, I believe that we can ultimately defeat this disease. And when we started this foundation 12 years ago, and with a couple of people around the room, we were actually at a Mexican food restaurant in Austin, Texas. We had very modest goals. We thought, we would address the stigma of testicular cancer. So you can imagine in 1996, a 25-year-old guy didn't want to run around and tell everybody in Texas that he had, I know. I don't know why, but that always gets a laugh. You talk about Texas and testicular cancer, and people laugh. That was an issue of stigma. But I think now, and I think before that, I think women came along in the late 70s and in the 80s and talked about breast cancer and talked about sensitive health issues, and that erased that stigma for women all across the United States, and now us men can somehow be brave enough to do that. But our intention at the time was to talk about this disease. I'll never forget, one of our main goals at the time in 1996, 1997, was to get the illustrations and the diagrams and the descriptions put back into the textbooks of Texas high schools because they had been taken out. It was offensive to show a testicular self-exam or a breast self-exam. That was sort of our big goal. And if you would have told us at the time in 1996 and 97 as we were starting that we would all be here in Dublin in 2009 with 500 people in the room, 65 countries, billions of dollars committed, we would have laughed you right out of that Mexican food restaurant. But it's reality, and we are all, and I speak for myself, I speak for the entire team at the foundation, we're all so proud that we're here. We also know we got a lot of work to do, but we're proud that we got a great start. When I was diagnosed and treated, I was diagnosed in Austin, and then I eventually was treated in Indianapolis, Indiana, which is sort of the mecca for the cure for testicular cancer, and I was treated by the great Dr. Larry Einhorn and Dr. Craig Nichols. And as I was leaving the hospital, December 13th, 1996, Dr. Einhorn was, I believe, in Australia, lecturing. Dr. Nichols, who was my main oncologist, pulled me aside and said, I want to speak to you about something. And I thought, oh, this is either I'm in trouble or there's bad news or what? And he said, well, I want to talk to you about the obligation of the cured. And I said, okay, and this is honestly where I thought maybe he sneaks me the news that I have actually been cured just a few months after I was diagnosed and treated and operated on. And I asked him, I said, you're going to tell me that I'm free and clear? And he said, no, I can't tell you that. I need to see you in a month. I need to see you in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year. He said, the obligation of the cured is an approach to the way you walk out of this hospital. And you can walk out one side, which is a very private side, and you don't ever have to share your story. You don't have to tell anybody that you're a cancer survivor. Nobody will ever know. The other side of the hospital is a very public side. It's a public side that you walk out, and for as long as you live, you share your experience. You agree to share your experience as a cancer survivor. And at the time, this is in mid-December of 96, I didn't think I'd be back on the bike. I didn't think I'd win a bike race. I certainly didn't think I'd ever do the tour. And I certainly didn't think I'd ever win 7 tours. But I thought that I might be able to share my experience on a bus, on an airplane, in a waiting room, in a class. But I accepted Dr. Nichols' challenge to walk out that side of the hospital. And I accepted his challenge of the obligation of the cured. And I think the moral of this story is that this room has accepted that challenge too. Nobody has walked out the private side, the quiet side of that hospital. We've all walked out the other side. The other side where we say we're cancer survivors. Here's our experience. We're passionate about it. And we want to see change affected in our lifetime and in our families and around the world. And so for that, I thank you. And for that, we all thank you, the entire staff and team at the foundation. We know that it's a big commitment to come here. We know it's a big commitment to walk out that side of the hospital. But it was the right commitment. And I think that that passion, that decision will ultimately lead to change for all of us. So let's have a great 3 days. We're going to have fun. We're going to become enlightened. We're going to hear great stories. And I, for one, am very excited about it. So thank you for being here, and let's get started.